video in our series here as getting a working API up and working. On our last video, we showed how you could add some customized error messages. On this one, we're going to start adding in a little bit of logic. So if I click on Portfolio Stocks, anytime we add a stock into a portfolio, we want to make sure that the stock exists already in our list of stocks. And this is just something based on our feedback from users and part of our business logic. So we'll click on business logic, and what this means is that you will get a chance to input some script as soon as the request arrives and just before it's supposed to send it the response. So you can always edit the output that's sent back, or you can modify and do some validation here. So the thing that we're going to add in here is that we're going to make sure that when you try to add a stock into a portfolio that it actually has a ticker. And let me paste in the logic here to save on my typing, but we're going to paste in some logic to show you an example. And I'll drag this down. So you'll see anytime logic is run, you get access to these objects are injected and paths, and based on the logic you'll gradually learn those. So the object is the request data that's passed in. So when I went to add in a stock maybe called Microsoft, that would contain the ticker and the name for that stock. And we're going to say if there's no ticker, return. So that sets the error. So the way we do error handling is you just set the error in here, and that will be the error that is returned on the API. Now the ticker must be uppercase. We're just going to simply take this and make the ticker be an uppercase. And the last piece of logic is, this is all our paths, is in the variable paths. We're going to say get the path called stocks, such as here, and we're going to say get the collection, which is all the stocks that we have, and say if it doesn't have this object, which is the ID, we could not find that object. So in order to add a stock to our portfolio, it has to exist in that stocks list. So that's just some business logic that we plan to implement. So I'm going to update the business logic with that. And we have a little test feature that we can run a sample object. So I'm going to pretend to add an ID called 3. Now I know that doesn't exist because we only have 1 and 2, which is Amazon and Tesla we did before. The ticker I'm going to say is Microsoft. And I'm going to say the exchange is NASDAQ. And the location is USA. So I'm going to pass that in. Now I want to check my error handling to see what would happen. So a ticker symbol, if I don't pass in a ticker symbol, I should see an error. And you'll see there's the error. Please provide a ticker name. That was the error message that we gave. So I will add Microsoft back in. Now we know there's not an ID called 3. So I'm going to test that. And look, could not find a stock with an ID of 3. And I'm going to close this because that was our error message. So this is one way we can start adding in real logic and make a high fidelity, powerful working API backend, because it can start adding in all this logic. So this logic now exists. So let's go and show our users this for some feedback. And we're going to create our next iteration, iteration 5. Which contains logic on the adding of a stock to a portfolio. So beta 5, let's send this out to our customers. Let's deploy this now. And I'm just going to, because we haven't changed the paths again, we can just grab the new API key. So I'm going to grab this and let's go give this a test. So if I come over to Postman, so I'm going to put in my new API key. Now for portfolios, we know we have a portfolio called 1, and we know we have these stocks. So I'm going to do a get, and we know we should see Tesla. Now if I do a list on the stocks that we have, you'll see we have Tesla and Amazon. Okay, so that means I can, according to my business logic, I can add Tesla or Amazon to my portfolio because they exist in stocks. But what if now I want to add in a stock, and it is maybe something like ID3 of Microsoft. So let me grab this just to make it easy. I'm going to grab this, save me from typing, and I'm going to say I'm going to add this in, and I'm going to say ID is 3 for Microsoft, and that's actually test our error handling, because remember our first test was no ticker symbol. So I'm going to post this stock into my portfolio, and I'm going to click Go. Now this should return us a message saying we need to have a ticker. Great, we get that error message. Now I'm going to add in Microsoft, and I know ID3 does not exist, so we should get that proper error message. Great, we could not find a stock with ID3. So do you see how we can now start adding in business logic to make it very realistic? Now there's lots of things you can do with logic. This logic that we embed in here is something called Apache velocity. And we use the same logic and the same scripting as that Apache velocity template. And that's what's good for doing the logic, and it's the same script for doing presentation, which we will learn later. And that is what we wanted to teach you in this one, how to start adding some logic, and it can be applied to any path, applied to any of the get all, create, update, deletes, and you can have it as soon as the request comes in to perform validation, or just before we send the response out. And that concludes this. Thank you.